Hey everyone, welcome to Bodybuilding Nation. I've got several interesting stories to share with you today about the top competitors in our sport. Martin Fitzwater, Dubai Pro rumors. First up, let's talk about Martin Fitzwater, who recently dropped a physique update on his Instagram story where he's looking incredibly conditioned for someone supposedly 18 weeks out from the Olympia. This has sparked numerous rumors about him potentially competing at the Dubai Pro, which is now just 2 weeks away. It's important to remember that Martin doesn't actually need to qualify for the Olympia. He already secured his spot by winning the Prague Pro late last year. While he does look remarkably lean in this update, I'm not entirely convinced he appears to be just 2 weeks out from stage-ready condition. The source of these Dubai Pro rumors remains unclear, as Martin himself hasn't made any direct statements about competing there. If he does decide to enter, the most likely motivation would be to regain momentum after his disappointing performance at the Pittsburgh Pro. Simply being qualified for the Olympia might not be satisfying enough. He may want to rebuild confidence heading into bodybuilding's biggest stage. The Dubai Pro lineup would provide interesting matchups we rarely see. Martin standing next to competitors like Behzad Behnami and Nathan Diasha would create fascinating comparisons, and winning against them would certainly restore his momentum. However, based on this update, while he looks better than a typical 18 weeks out physique, I'm not convinced he's showing 2 weeks out conditioning. What do you think? Does this update confirm Martin will compete in Dubai, or is it simply an impressive 18-week Olympia progress check? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Olympia preview battle, Samson, Derek, and Brandon. Another major talking point in the bodybuilding world right now is the battle for the Olympia preview that was recently featured on the Olympia TV YouTube channel. This showcase highlighted 3 Mr. Olympia champions, Samson Dauda, Derek Lunsford, and Brandon Curry. Notably absent were Hadi Choopan and Nick Walker, which means this preview doesn't give us a complete picture of who might be the frontrunner for this year's Olympia. Given how far out we are from the competition, it's difficult to draw definitive conclusions about who's leading the pack. We recently saw Derek and Samson go head-to-head at the Arnold Classic just a few months ago, where Derek emerged victorious. Last month, Derek also dominated at the Pittsburgh Pro. Meanwhile, Brandon Curry is preparing for the Masters Mr. Olympia, and I thought he looked particularly impressive standing alongside these 2 champions. What's missing from this equation is Hadi Choopan. It would be fascinating to see him back in the mix with these competitors, especially since we've seen the others on stage together relatively recently. Hadi is the significant piece missing from this preview. In a recent full posing video, Samson weighed in at a massive 328 pounds, which explains why so many comments on the Olympia preview noted how enormous he looked standing next to Derek and Brandon. If Derek was around 260 pounds in this footage, that would make Samson nearly 70 pounds heavier. I'm not sure what Brandon was weighing, but he certainly held his own in this impressive lineup. Honestly, nothing in this preview definitively indicates who might be the frontrunner for this year's Olympia. The title seems completely up for grabs among Samson, Nick, Derek, and Hadi. Perhaps even Brandon still has an outside shot, though I personally believe he's at a stage in his career where he's slightly outside that conversation, which may explain his decision to compete in the Masters Olympia. I suspect he might retire after that event, going out on a high note with a likely victory, as there doesn't appear to be other Mr. Olympia champions in that lineup based on current information. No Kai Green or Phil Heath. Did this Olympia preview change your predictions at all? Did you gain any insights about potential frontrunners, or is it simply too early to make meaningful assessments? Share your thoughts in the comments. Regan Grimes. 1 day out from Toronto Pro. Moving on, we have some physique updates from Regan Grimes about a day out from the Toronto Pro. I should clarify that the Toronto Pro is scheduled for Sunday rather than Saturday, which explains why you haven't seen coverage today. They conducted athlete check-ins today, and there are some videos available of those proceedings. Personally, I don't understand why some promoters prefer Sunday shows over Saturday events. I assume they're giving the amateur competitors the stage today, but for the pro show that typically runs later in the evening, you'd think more spectators could attend and stay up late on a Saturday night when they don't have work the following morning. Nevertheless, that's the schedule they've chosen. There isn't much to discuss about this show heading into the competition. Shaheen Safai Haravi, Sash, hasn't posted any physique updates, so we only have Regan's condition to analyze. I did see an update from Eric Janicki, but I believe this will primarily be a rematch between Regan and Sash for the third time. All we can reference are their previous two encounters, where Regan placed higher both times. Though in New York, while he didn't win the show, he still finished ahead of Sash. My prediction remains that Regan will win this competition. It's puzzling why more competitors from recent shows, like the California Pro or Legion Sports Festival, aren't participating in the Toronto Pro. This has resulted in what seems like a somewhat disappointing lineup. I noticed Tonio Burton commented on a post indicating he'll be competing at the Dubai show instead. I'm beginning to think Dubai might feature the next truly competitive lineup. Next weekend brings the IFBB Elite Pro Classic in Spain, but I haven't heard any major names confirming their participation. The competitor list should be released Monday, but none of the athletes we've been discussing have mentioned competing there. It seems most are conserving their energy for the Dubai show. The Toronto Pro is tomorrow, but there hasn't been substantial build-up, the lineup isn't particularly deep, and there's limited discussion surrounding it. I expect Regan to secure another victory. Ramone Dino, classic physique improvements. Next up, many fans have been discussing recent updates from Ramone Dino, expressing significant impression with his apparent progress. I genuinely believe Ramone still has a legitimate chance at claiming the Classic Physique Olympia title. Similar to Men's Open, the Classic Physique title seems very much up for grabs. While Mike Sommerfeld appears to be the favorite heading into the competition, I feel Ramone's disappointing showing at last year's Olympia was primarily due to being off his peak condition. If he brings his absolute best against Mike, I believe he still has an excellent chance of winning. We didn't get to see Ramone at the Arnold Classic competing against Mike, who won that show after placing second at the Olympia. The Olympia was the last time we saw them head-to-head, and I strongly feel Ramone's issue was simply being off his best form. When he's at his peak, the outcome could be very different. From these recent updates, you can see he's made improvements to his back and appears to have added size, though I don't believe lack of mass was his problem. His primary issues were conditioning and posing execution, which let him down at last year's Olympia, where he appeared flat and generally off his game. Simply adding size isn't necessarily the improvement he needed to make, but I do think Ramone has the structure and existing mass to potentially reclaim the Olympia title. I was impressed with these updates and still consider Ramone very much in contention. I wouldn't count him out as a potential favorite this year. What are your thoughts on his chances? Nick Walker, 18 weeks out from Olympia. Finally, I wanted to conclude with these impressive physique updates from Nick Walker, who is also 18 weeks out from the Olympia. Comparing him to Martin from our first story, I think they look very comparable conditioning-wise in their updates. Nick is definitively 18 weeks out with no plans to compete in any shows between now and the Olympia. Their similar condition is another reason I question whether Martin is truly 2 weeks out from competing in Dubai. Again, I'm not sure where these rumors originated since Martin hasn't mentioned anything about it himself. Another reason I wanted to highlight these updates is that Nick was notably absent from the Olympia preview we discussed earlier. He looks tremendously impressive here, and I would have liked to see him included in that pose down. While we recently saw Nick and Derek on stage together, and Derek and Samson competing against each other, we haven't seen Nick and Samson side by side. That would have been an exciting addition to the Olympia preview. Nick's current condition is exceptional, and I believe he has a legitimate shot at placing in the top 3 at this year's Olympia. Considering how the Olympia title has changed hands over recent years with surprising results each season, I think this is entirely possible. Obviously, Nick cracking the top 3 would mean displacing one of the recent Mr. Olympia champions. Hadi, Derek, or Samson would be forced out of those positions, which would be a surprising development. With the unpredictable nature of recent Olympia results, I could absolutely see this happening. Which champion might be pushed out of the top 3 is anyone's guess at this point. What are your predictions for this year's Olympia? Where do you think Nick will place compared to Brandon, Hadi, Derek, and Samson? Share your thoughts in the comments section. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button and subscribe to Bodybuilding Nation for more comprehensive coverage of the sport we all love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.